Today feels a bit strange on Stark Radio because I'm here to interview someone who can probably interview herself better than I ever could. But regardless, today's guest is an absolute icon, both on fandom TikTok, but just in general for showing us the path that she's on. Take a peek.
I'm not a nightclub goer, and my first time ever going, I imagined it's like what it was in the movies, like they're dancing and they're having a great time. And then I got to shoot a club scene because there's several club scenes in this movie, and there's no music playing. They're telling us, look like you're having a good time, like take a sip, now you do this, now you walk over there. And I remember at one point I was like, if you've seen Marriage Story, Scarlett Johansson, it was fun because you let loose, but the music is so faint because you need to hear what they're going, like the instructions they're telling you. Because in the script, they're not going to write, okay, at minute this, you need to take a sip of your drink. My scene partners were great. I had a great time with my co-stars, and we did go to real clubs after certain days of shooting, or especially the last one. We had a great time at the club. The musical aspect was really fun. The dancing aspect was also fun. I think contributing and paying homage to...
So if you didn't catch on, that never happened. A fully scripted fake interview is what Emily Uribe is known for on TikTok. And today I'm so thrilled she's joining me to talk about her brilliance. Emily, welcome to Stark Radio.
Thank you so much for having me. I love Stark Radio. I feel so like, oh my God, I feel so official.
You are official. Listen, 133,000 followers on TikTok. Is that what you're at now? Or is it more than that?
I just grew to 142.
Okay, so just so the listeners know, I literally looked at your account, I think, yesterday to pull that number, maybe 2 days ago. So that's how fast you're growing. And how many likes are you sitting at? Do you know?
Oh, I think it's like 37.4
million.
37 million, yes.
That's quite literally the population of Canada. It's like the state of California. Like that's how many people have liked your video. You could go to Florida and every single citizen has liked a video of yours. That's insane. How do you even wrap your head around the success that you've had?
I definitely think when I first started, it was really hard for me to accept that, like, oh my God, like people enjoy seeing this or people think this is funny. And it's always interesting to see the ratio of everything. Like a lot of people are like, your ratio is insane. Like, how do you manage that? I'm like, the thing is, I don't manage it. Like, I can't control that. But I definitely think when I try not to think about it too much, because I feel like at certain points I get really in my head about it. And yes, the numbers are nice, but they're not everything. And I know that at the end of the day, like most of those people that ended up liking those videos didn't really stay. So I can't really, think too much about it. It's definitely just a one-time thing for so many people.
But when you do come up on the For You page, I think people who have liked your videos before and then they come back to you, they understand what they're watching. They're like, oh, this is the girl that nails the self-interview every single time. And I think that, and we've talked about this, and you've said that a lot of people comment on your videos saying, oh, I see myself in this and I identify with this approach. How do you find building content this relatable? How does it feel to put that out into the world and see so many people feel reflected in what you do?
I definitely think it fulfills a fantasy in certain people. Like it seems as though the people who do this at home by themselves, they see this type of content and they're just like, oh, I'm not the only one that does this. I don't feel alone. Like people in the comments rejoice. They're like, oh my God, you do this too. Like, so you're so brave for putting this out there because no one else would do this. I'm like, no, it's something that we all do, like maladaptive daydreaming. This is only one form of it, and there's so many others. But I think forming content like this it's very fun at the same time, but also it's a way of manifestation. So I feel like the more I do it, the more I get more comfortable with it. And when it does happen, which clearly right now it's happening, I'm getting interviewed, I think it allows me to speak better for myself. So it's a nice communication tactic as well.
Absolutely. It's like a fun form of practice for the example we just watched, when you inevitably do film a clubbing scene, you can kind of think to yourself, oh, I've thought this through before, like how I would talk about this. And that was a question I wanted to ask you about manifestation. And so you clearly must believe in manifesting. Mm-hmm. Is there content that you build with specific goals in mind? Like, okay, I know I really want to be on Jimmy Kimmel, so I'm going to film an interview saying like, this is me on the Jimmy Kimmel show. What are those goals and like, how do you build that into what you do?
When I think of video ideas, I definitely think of like, okay, what have I seen before? How can I build off of that? Because there's certain videos that I do that I could watch one celebrity interview and one specific celebrity one time and be like, okay, this is what they do, this is what they're saying. And with goals in mind of me wanting to be on these talk shows and wanting to speak to these talk show hosts, I definitely think, how would they react? What would the audience think? Like, I want to always cater to the audience that I'm trying to reach. And the people that I'm reaching so far have seen these interviews. So I always want to make sure that the goals in mind cater to everyone that's trying to watch these shows in real time, in real life.
Right. I think that's so thoughtful of you to kind of not just build your approach around. I've said this on past episodes of the podcast that there are creators that build for selfish reasons, that want to, jump on a trend or create a certain type of content or talk about a certain artist or band or piece of media because it's trendy and they know there's an audience around it. And then you have creators that actually believe in that community and believe in those trends and those people and the people that love that content and want to contribute to them. Mm-hmm. It sounds like you definitely fall on that side of the scale. And when you watch your content, you definitely come across as a creator that's really thoughtful in what people want to see and creating out of that energy as opposed to what's going to give me my next million likes.
Yeah, I definitely think when I was doing more fandom content creation, it's definitely always about what's trending, what can get you the next viral video. And I used to think like that, and it made me really, really unhappy. And I think that's another reason why I left the fandom content creator world. It's very competitive, and everyone's always trying to just, one up each other. It's always about, oh, how many likes did you get on this? It's a very competitive world. And now that I'm finally making content that I know people can relate to and people enjoy and, catering to that audience, it's a lot more fulfilling.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the fandom world and kind of those are your roots, obviously. So like it's important in one sense to like recognize that. First, what fandoms do you identify with and did you create content for as a starting point? Obviously, this show is about Marvel, but I think it kind of goes beyond that.
Oh yeah, I definitely think I enjoy all aspects of pop culture. When I first started TikTok, and the first fandom I really felt like I belonged to and align myself with is the One Direction fandom. I was a huge Directioner. I loved them. And then after they split up, I started really enjoying Harry's music a bit later on in his solo career. So I definitely at first was a part of the Harry fandom, and then that only grew to me loving Dua and I've always loved Ariana Grande, Marvel, talking about things and other artists that are totally separate from that narrative. So when I first started, I was making content for the Harry fandom, and it was so much fun, and there's so much to talk about, but also there's also not a lot to talk about because when the artist isn't as public or doing a lot, it was definitely just like recycling and reusing the same jokes and same pictures.
Yeah. It's tough. And I think like right now in the Harry Styles fandom, there is some things to work with, but then you start seeing those gray areas of, if you give a mouse a cookie, right? Like if you get one picture of Harry, it's content for 3 months until you get the next picture of Harry. And what kind of environment does that make for a community when you have so little to grasp on? That's when you see people start to get on each other's nerves and people take it too far, and you kind of get into that gray area that I think every single fandom has by times. I mean, look at the Marvel fandom in between movies when you can only analyze a movie so far until all of a sudden you're off the deep end with some thoughts. So talk about how you've navigated those moments as a creator and finding this is not meant to be a pun, but really finding the fine line between like when the joke is done and when you need to keep building and creating.
I think, as you said, like you only really get certain photos, and when you do, you hold on to them like they are your only child. There is not that much to always speak of, and especially with the pandemic and quarantine, we didn't really get to see him a lot. So holding on to a lot of One Direction fandom jokes when that craze was going on, obviously July 13th or July 21st, I get those dates mixed up, but leading up to their sort of reunion kind of thing and their anniversary, there just isn't much to talk about. And as a creator, you always feel the need, at least I did, to keep pumping out content of recycled and reused. And I've talked to other Harry fandom friends telling them, don't you get tired of reusing the same pictures and jokes? Because especially on a platform like TikTok, it's kind of like you have to keep reinventing one picture, one joke. You have to keep constantly nagging at it, versus Twitter, where they just freely talk about things and they're not just using the same jokes over and over again.
Yeah.
So as a creator, I think navigating through that, I just had to continuously tell myself, well, this is what everyone wants to see. They only want to talk about this, or this is what's popular right now.
Yeah.
And when you hit those gray areas where you're just like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Like, I don't care anymore. It feels like you're being selfish.
Yeah. I completely hear you on that. And I feel like it goes back to the idea of keeping yourself keeping yourself mindful of that. When are you creating content for the people that you want to build a community around? And then when are you hyping and jumping on things? And every creator goes in between batches of both. I think that something that is really interesting about you specifically is how you kind of found your own voice within that. And you found a certain level of success with your content that, I mean, there's hundreds, if not thousands of creators on TikTok, and some are not trying to grow their accounts. There are people that create content, they get one viral video and then we never see them again. And you've found longevity and movement between all of these different fandoms and kept people along for the ride, regardless if you're talking about Tony Stark or if you're talking about Harry or Dua or your vlogs, which are hilarious and so insightful into like who you are as a person. What do you think of the community that you've built on TikTok and the people that have been around with you for as long as you've been creating content for?
Oh God, I consider everybody like such a pal, such a friend. Like, I definitely think the community that I've built, we haven't fallen apart. I definitely think as I've grown and as I've kept creating content, they've wanted to stay. And engagement has always been something that I've been really working hard at, is trying to engage with every single person that I can on the internet. I really always want to build a good relationship with my friends, and just having the accessibility to see how we've all grown together instead of growing as just me. I consider it just a whole group of people that want to keep growing with me and want to keep watching what I do. And that's just really, really nice.
I feel like that's very mindful of this new era of influencer that we're in. I don't know if you consider yourself an influencer, but back in the day, when in the YouTube golden days of Zoella, Tyler Oakley, and like all of these people, they would only ever comment on the first 5 people that commented on their video, right? And it was such a big deal to subscribe and try and be one of the first people that got engagement. And now we're in this era of people like yourself who have big followings, who if you don't know Emily, you'd be maybe intimidated by the amount of success you've had. But then you do see that she comments to as many comments as are left on her videos. And she does see people that tag her in their edits and things like that. Do you feel like your approach is different than maybe the people that you were inspired by growing up before you started making content?
I definitely think watching those types of parasocial relationships really helped me build myself into what I want to continue being. I used to be a big like Bethany Moda watcher, and I was never into O2L, but I always respected the fact that they seem to respect their fans and they seem to really want to connect with everybody. And I think now that I've grown into my own creator and what I want to continue doing, I always want to make sure my parasocial relationship is very friendly. I always want to make sure that it's welcoming. And I think seeing how they would only reply to certain people, because I believe a lot of content creators did have favorites in their own fandoms, and it's very noticeable. And they've grown with their favorite creators as well. But I want to make sure that everyone just feels welcome and appreciated, and just thank you. And if my content somehow ends up not being for them later on, they always have the freedom to leave. Like, there's no problem with that. So I think also just remembering that, not everyone is going to like you all the time. You still have to be as gracious as you can about it, because at least they stayed for a certain amount of time. So I always want my parasocial relationships to be kind and friendly and appreciated. And if I'm not for you anymore, then that's totally okay. I think there's a bigger difference now with content creators with the short form amount of content that we're getting. Like, for example, Victoria Paris, she tries to take the time to reply to a lot of people, even if it's a simple thanks. I always want to do that as well.
You have such a self-acknowledgement or self-awareness of this. It's amazing to me. There are so many creators that don't see users as real people. Even still, even though we're all on TikTok, everyone in the world has found TikTok during, this quarantine time. And it's not, there aren't a lot of creators that have reached the kind of success that you have that I think still understand the importance of taking the time as if you had 10 followers, if you had 100 followers. And scaling that is hard, right? When you have 500 comments on a video instead of 10. It takes a certain amount of energy to really be in there with the people that support you. Where do you find the stamina from to kind of keep up with what people are commenting? Because it's not just nice video, thanks. It's like, here are my ideas for what interview to do next, and why did you change your hair, and like, tell me where you got your pants. And it requires a lot to keep up with.
I definitely think as my following grew a bit more, I recognize that it's important to always acknowledge the people that want to be there. And to be honest, I don't check my comments until a day later. I always kind of let the video ride out, and then I try to get to or like as many comments as I can, because I always want to make sure that, again, that parasocial relationship is there. I want to show my appreciation for you. You took the time out of your day to comment on one of my videos or like one of my videos. I want to make sure that you know that I appreciate you. So the stamina to do it is right before I go to bed. I think sometimes it's not a good thing to always like look at comments, but I feel like it's a nice end to my day when I can just chat with people and actually get to know them through the screen.
And you work hard. Like, let's just talk about like your life for a second here, because not only are you a TikToker, but you've really shown us like you build this content, and you also work, and you're also going to school, and you have friendships and relationships in your own apartment, and all of these things that are a part of your life that you're managing and working in outside of what you do on TikTok, which has become so successful. What's your next goal for this in terms of how involved your creation is in your life? Do you see yourself scaling outside of TikTok? I know a lot of people are wondering like what movie you're going to be in next. And I always laugh when I see those comments where I'm like, do these people think Emily's hiding something? Like she's really out like filming the next Marvel movie, but then coming on TikTok and doing a fake interview. Like, so what do you think is next, and how do you see this TikTok account as part of whatever that next is?
I really would love to jump into the world of acting, and I think TikTok is a great platform, but also in a way, I feel like a lot of casting directors and agencies won't take you seriously, because there's definitely two kinds of TikTokers. There's the Addisons, the Charlies, very influencer. They grew incredibly quickly, and agencies took such interest to them because the numbers are there. They're bringing in a certain revenue in. I definitely think a lot of agencies find it embarrassing if you're not very, very big. And I think that's one of the reasons I haven't wanted to start a YouTube channel, which I get a lot of comments about that. Why don't you start a YouTube channel? Because I don't think a lot of YouTubers are taken seriously. And I don't think TikTokers are taken seriously, which I hate considering myself a TikToker. I think it's so strange to think about. Like, I just consider myself a normal person. I live with my parents. I work in retail. The next goal I see for myself is hopefully getting some commercials, landing some small extra roles. And I would really love to work for Marvel. Obviously, that's my main focus, is I really want to work for Marvel.
Call her. Marvel is watching this. She's ready.
No, I am ready. I'm like, I will do every stunt, anything you need me to, like, please just let me in.
Put me in, coach. Yeah, I think it's a real shame that creators aren't taken seriously. And I think that's a really good point with how YouTube was such an empire for so long, and certain people were taken very seriously for a short amount of time, right? And now we're in this oversaturated market where there's such connotations to being a YouTube creator, when really it's a portfolio of skills and what you can bring to the table. That's something that I think whether you're consciously doing it or not is really smart about the way that you've created your account, because it's not only your personal life, but it's showing people what you're not only prepared to do when you're doing these interviews, like, oh yeah, I'm prepared to do a club scene or do, stunts or whatever it is, but the content that you want to do and that you're ready for the doors to open for it. And like you said earlier, the manifestation part of it's kind of interesting too. I'm ready to manifest these into my life. So I hope that there's a day when people do take it seriously, because it does take a lot of work to do what you do. And like, I commend you for it.
No, we're all trying to make it. I think one thing that people don't realize about TikTok is if you want to keep constantly posting and be super consistent, you have to kind of be ready at one point for the growth that you're going to get, because no matter how many videos you post, someone is always watching. A viewer is always going to see whether you get a like or not. They are watching your content, and you just have to be prepared to kind of see where else you could go, because for some people TikTok really is just a hobby. They don't want to do this for the rest of their life, or they're not trying to do anything with this outside of this. Like they don't want to use TikTok as a way to get anywhere else. But I think when you have those creators who do want to use this as a mechanism of networking and growing a platform and keeping that platform later on, it's a very interesting development.
Right. I totally 100% agree with you. Let's dig into some of your content, because you've done some hilarious content I've been following you for, I don't know, maybe like 7 months or so. I was a lurker on TikTok for such a long time before I ever posted my first video. So however long you've been doing the interviews for, it's probably when you came up with my For You page for the first time. And you've really gone from kind of more vague descriptions of an interview that you could be doing if you were an actor to like calling out and doing impressions of co-stars. One of my favorite videos of yours is when you did the Tom Holland accent for when he wanted to try coffee.
Yeah.
That was so good and so believable. And the way that you frame yourself to like as if you are motioning to a person sitting beside you, or the water bottle sips at a convention panel, like you nail those details so perfectly. Is there a certain kind of content that you prefer building in terms of your interview setups? Is there certain people or scenarios or ideas that you think are really fun to play with?
I think the co-star idea is very fun to play with, because you could always have someone who can pretend to be a co-star and duet the video and see what they can do with it. And I've seen a lot of videos doing that as well, and that's been very fun to see. And I also love, I think when you film for like Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel, if you've been a fan of those late night talk shows, or there's so many celebrities who do end up watching those talk shows before they go to sleep. For example, like Sebastian Stan, he watches so much of his own work and so much of his own appearance on TV and late night TV. Chris Evans, all of them. I definitely think you want to think of yourself, how would I act? What would my mannerisms be? And then you kind of take from those celebrities as well, and you're like, oh, okay, I can do this. So whenever I'm building those types of videos, I definitely think, okay, Jimmy would be laughing, but nothing was funny. The audience would laugh. Like they cue the audience to laugh, and people are like, you should add a laugh track. And I'm always like, you know what? I'll think about that. Certain videos require it. Most don't. I don't like to add that in there.
And I think that having it just be your voice really adds an element to the viewer where they can imagine where those moments would come in, right? You're not giving us everything. You're showing us this is how the actor would be, and then we can visualize the fake Jimmy Fallon laugh and the audience laughter and the camera cuts or whatever it might be. Thinking about the co-star concept, is there somebody in the Marvel universe that you are manifesting is going to be your co-star soon?
If I were to ever want to work with someone, I know his contract is up, but Tom Holland, I know he'll come back for like Sinister Six or any other projects, which he said he'll always want to be Spider-Man. He'll never say no to coming back. But also, I think I want to work with a lot of the younger Avengers. I would love to work with Haley Steinfeld. I think she would be so much fun on set and then off of set. And she's obviously going to be Kate Bishop in the new Hawkeye series. So I would love to work with the newer generation of Avengers that are going to be coming in. But if I were to want to work with someone who's been in the game and who clearly was with the big titans, Tom Holland would be my number one.
Right on. I love that. If you were inserting yourself into the MCU, who would you be? Is there like a certain power that you're like, oh yeah, like 100% I would want to be this kind of hero?
I would love to be, her name is Polaris.
Yeah.
She's in a couple Young Avengers titles, but I would love to portray her, and they've never brought her into the MCU from what I've seen. And I've also seen a lot of X-Men characters be brought up, and obviously the Fantastic Four are coming, which I'm really wondering if they're having any open calls. I need to know.
Marvel, she's ready.
No, I would love to even be an extra in any of those films that are coming, but I would love to play Polaris. And power set, I definitely think with the power sets that are coming, like you have another Archer coming in, Kate Bishop, you have Miss Marvel, you have Photon or Teyonah Parris's Captain Marvel that's coming in, and also Brie Larson, and then Loki still being in the universe somehow. All of the power sets that are there, I think it's time for the X-Men to be brought in. So if there's any X-Men characters that need to be portrayed, I would love to portray one.
Ready for a call.
I am.
I think that we're also in this new era of Marvel with so many well-written female characters. Not to say there's ever been a shortage or lack of strong, powerful women in the MCU, but you can see the way that they're writing women differently. And I think that that's a really important differentiating factor about this next phase that we're in. So I feel like giving you a well-written, powerful character, like let's make it happen, Marvel. She's ready. I'm ready for it. I will also manifest this with you. And then when you do become a Marvel creator, give me an interview during your press junkets. I would love, like, you know how they set everyone up for like those 60-second interviews and they get asked the same 3 questions and then the interviewer gets, I would love to do that for you someday. So let me in to ask you like 2 questions and then I'll dip.
I will. I got you. I promise you we're all going up together. We're all getting there.
Yes, I love it. Somebody else that you've said you have allegiance towards is RDJ, obviously.
I love him.
You're a Tony Stark fan.
I am.
And you got to go see that iconic billboard that was put up in LA of like bring back Tony Stark. What are your thoughts around that?
First of all, I want to know what meeting happened for these people to come together and really want, and I do think RDJ will come back. I have my theories. I definitely think as an AI, I think that would be awesome if he was a type of Jarvis system. It would make sense if he encapsulated his voice in his brain. And it would be amazing. But that billboard, I remember I saw it because I didn't know where it was. And someone in my comments said, oh, on Santa Monica something. And I thought I would have to go to Santa Monica. I was like, I'm not going there to see that. Yeah. But then we were driving and I was like, is that the billboard? How much money was that? Because it's not a big one. It's quite a small one. But those are still so expensive.
And who has the money to put towards such a fandom niche, right? Like, oh yes, I think we do need a Tony Stark billboard and I will personally fund it. Like, where was the GoFundMe?
Yeah, I want to know, was there some fundraising done? Did you have kids sell chocolate bars? Like, where did we get this much money for a billboard, especially in Los Angeles? I wonder if any Marvel executives drive down, if Kevin Feige's ever seen it in person.
I'm sure they must have. Like, there's no way that they don't know that it's there. I wish that someone would go pose with it. That's kind of my wish, right? Like, I just want someone to recognize that it exists because it's hilarious. I think the Marvel fandom is really interesting for reasons like this. Like, they're so passionate around the characters and the plots and defending what they believe to be true about the MCU. And for creators, that kind of opens this unfortunate door of people not separating opinion in theory from like constructive fandom conversation. And you enter that kind of toxic world of people who refuse to accept that there can be multiple opinions around things. And, the MCU is not real. So you can have differentiating opinions about things because there's no real world implication for having different standpoints on Captain Marvel. So what have your experiences been around, not just in the MCU, but kind of seeing those conversations? And as a creator, obviously, we all kind of step into it in one way or another or are exposed to it, and dealing with kind of that toxic energy that fandom is known for.
First and foremost, I definitely want to say, I think every fandom on every platform is different. Instagram Marvel fans are a different breed. There's never any issues on Instagram from what I see. Then you go to Twitter. Twitter is either you love it or you hate it. That fan space, I've seen Marvel fan spaces go down. It's just insane to think that, yes, there are so many people who believe in the same thing as you, but there's also people with some really crazy opinions or they're forcing something on somebody. I definitely think one of the most divisive fandom opinions in the Marvel fandom is Tony versus Cap. Team Tony, Team Cap. Yeah. That was trending yesterday because it was the anniversary of when the movie dropped, the day it dropped. And I remember saying, oh my God, Tony is this, Tony is that, Cap is this. It's okay, Yeah. They're very happy wherever they are. I'm sure Tony and Cap are fine. Tony's dead.
Yeah, it's true. It's
beating a dead horse.
And like one of the most fun things about a fandom is that passion, right? And having spirited debates and really owning who your favorites are and defending your standpoints. Like that's why community exists. But I think that there's this unfortunate side of when people hurt other people and their opinions, right? Like I think that it was so tragic when these amazing, smart, Black creators on TikTok were getting, you know, thousands of comments with racist stereotypes because of their opinions on Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yep.
And only for the show to end and drop the assembled special where the directors, the producers, and the writers all said, oh, this is a special about what a Black Captain America means and how Sam Wilson is rising to the title.
Yeah.
So I think that it's important for creators to recognize, and for everyone in a community to recognize when things are taken too far, and you know where that line is. What's your thoughts on like creating a space where people can talk about things? Like, for example, you posted a video about how you don't like Guardians of the Galaxy, and that really started some conversations in the comments. So what's your opinion on creating spaces that can host conversations, but also making sure that people still feel safe and supported?
I think with content like that, it's very important to make your point known. And I know people love to stay neutral, but I think at certain points they're going to recognize who you stand with. And I think especially the conversations with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I really disliked how a lot of creators were just getting dragged for stating their opinion and stating their theories. And, you know, I think with also Anthony Mackie talking about what a Black Captain America means, it created conversation. And, you know, Captain America is not just white with blue eyes. Like, if you really want to be growing and have Marvel keep continuing, we're going to have to see so many more characters of color develop. And along with the Guardians of the Galaxy talk, it's very interesting to see how some people might take your opinion. I did get comments where someone was like, how the F could you not like those movies? They're so funny. They're this, they're that. I just don't like Chris Pratt. That's okay. But some people really defend him with like their entire, were you on Twitter when that Chris versus Chris debacle was happening and all of his Avenger friends were like, Chris Pratt is the best Chris? I was like, okay, y'all can be quiet now. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. Like, there's no issues. Did some people take it too far? Yes, but has he ever apologized? No. So, talking about those controversial topics like Guardians of the Galaxy, because of the cast and because of James Gunn, I think it can either create a really nice way of people expressing their opinion versus hating you for your opinion.
Yeah. And, you know, just to be crystal clear here, I think sending any creator death threats is where, like, that is the clear line of when things are taken way too far. And that is not okay. And unfortunately, I think you've been subjected to a bit of that side of the fandom as well. So just for the sake of clearly drawing a line on this podcast, like, that's something that no creator should ever receive for their opinion if it's not hurting people. Which, your opinion about Guardians of the Galaxy, it's just that. It's a harmless opinion that you're entitled to have about a movie about a space god man that is played by an actor that's problematic. You know, when you bring it back to a real world context, like, your opinion isn't going to have any world shifting effect at the end of the day.
Exactly. I definitely think when opinions are taken too seriously like that, to the point where it has so many people creating this conversation about you and saying all these awful things about you, especially death threats, I would never wish that upon anybody, and I don't think it's okay to. And I definitely think when things are said like that, it always comes back to someone, because it's karma. Like, you're not controlling that. You're not supposed to be saying that to someone. Obviously, you can do whatever you want because I can't control you. But I just think there's karma in the way that always coming back to someone, especially for sending death threats. Like, that's never okay.
And as your platform continues to scale and grow, I think that your voice matters even more to people, and your opinions matter even more to people. And it's so important to kind of have those self boundaries made where, like, you know, when to log off at the comments and when to tell people to stop taking it so seriously, and also stand up for the things that you believe in. And I think that you're one of those creators that I really admire for the way you navigate those situations and continue to create and build and grow in spite of people taking harmless things too far. So kudos to you for the way that you stuck through it, and you've built a community around yourself that really uplifts you in that.
It's been nice to see the amount of support that I've received, and I totally understand where some people could have a different opinion than you. That's totally okay. But once it gets to the point where, like, people are just subjecting you to tons of hate, at what point do you think it's too far for you as the person who's giving it? Like, it's not supposed to be happening that way. And that's one of the reasons that I think a lot of people leave fandoms, because why would you want to deal with that every day? What is the point in the aggravation of having to sit there and watch people say, well, you're this, well, you're that. Like, you're the people that want these creators gone and these celebrities gone, but you still bring them up in conversation. You're adding to their press.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when you see people like Elizabeth Olsen leave Instagram, and you see people like Sebastian Stan is so involved right now, but how long are we going to have that for? Or Tom Hiddleston leaving Twitter, you know, all of these people that end up taking a step back because it does go too far and become too much. But on the topic of leaving fandom, I think we need to congratulate you on ushering in. You've ushered in this new era of Emily Uribe, which I'm so excited about. You've rebranded yourself across all your platforms. We are officially in what I think is Emily Uribe like superstar mode. What do you consider this new era of your life to be? Like, what are your hopes for it? What do you think owning your name as part of your online identity means for you as someone that's trying to use TikTok to grow all of their manifestations and bring them to life?
With my online identity, I want to be taken a bit more seriously. I don't want to always make fandom content, and that's totally okay. And I definitely think along the lines of changing my name, I just felt so much negativity and bad energy from the name I used to have, which was Miss Ticketmaster. And while I had so much fun with it at times, it just got to the point where it kept nagging at me like, oh my God, like I feel like people just keep beating this name and that era of me, I'm so glad is over. And with this new era and with my actual, like my real name now being used, I really hope that it brings more networking opportunities and I'm able to really grow with my real name, because your name is your brand. You are who you are, your name. And I want to own that. If people are going to talk about me, go ahead, use my real name. Like, now you don't have anything to hide behind. Now I really do want to see what you have to say, and people's opinions. And I think also that comes with a lot of uncertainty and anxiety, because now that people might use your real name, you're just going to sit there and wait like, oh my God, what are people going to think of me now? But I think leaving that fandom space is just better for me. And I want to actually take my life seriously. I want to book roles. I want to book commercials. I want to be seen as someone who takes their passion seriously. And I think having that, when people can see that you have that itch and that passion to do something and you're starving for it, they're going to want to keep watching, because you never know where it could go.
Like, round of applause for that answer. Yes. There's so much strength in taking like the first step of recognizing what you are capable of when you own who you are. And I think that part of what makes fandom so interesting for me is how people come into community and find identity within it. And then from there, they grow into this evolved version of themselves that is able to grow from the experiences they've had from fandom. And I think for somebody that wants to get into acting, what a cool growth for you to be able to say, like, that was an era of my life where I could, you know, support some of the best in the biz, talk about them, and really learn what it was like to be in their community. And now I'm going to take it and build my own community and really scale the dreams that I have for myself. I'm so excited to see what you're going to do next. You know, owning it is the very clear cut first step of getting all of these things that you're working towards and dreaming of. So you've mentioned some of the things that you're hoping for and what you'd like to do, but do you have like a set goal of like, I want to book X type of project, or, you know, networking that you're trying to do to launch yourself into a particular space?
I would love to start, because I always say I want to be a working actress. I don't just want to be a successful actress. I always want to be working. If you want to be seen by the world, you have to be anywhere and everywhere on every platform at any time. And I take that advice from Dua Lipa. She said it best. I definitely think if you want to be seen by the world, you need to be anywhere and everywhere you can, because the work won't stop. They could forget about you, but if you make them not forget, there's something really powerful in that. And if you continue to work hard, it will show. So I definitely would love to start. Obviously, I've said commercials. I would love to work in extra background work. I also would love to work behind the scenes. I am going to school for film, and I would love to work as a production assistant. I would love to work with the casting directors. I want to start where I can see all areas of the business I'm going into and actually get work and actually see what goes down, and, you know, not kick myself if I don't get something, because there's always, like, your only competition is yourself. There's always going to be someone who can like do better than you, but no one can do you better than you. So you have to continue to work on yourself.
What a
But yeah.
grounded approach. How are you so wise at the stage you're at? Because so many people want to become Addison Rae overnight, and they want to, get the covers and be in an award show and have a song come out and have it go number one and all these things right away. And I feel like the people that understand the slow burn approach and the learning approach, someone like Tom Hiddleston, who went to school and studied the classics and spent so much time in that so he could become the nuanced actor he is, there's such a strategy in that. So what's made you so wise in planning all of this?
I definitely think growing up on the internet, you see so many things go down behind the scenes and so many contracts that are awful to these people. And there is a lot of power in going to school. Elizabeth Olsen graduated from, I believe, NYU, Anthony Mackie Juilliard. And, he's always asked, would you ever not have gone to school? And he says, no, I think learning about Shakespeare and learning about the classics, I use those things to this day. And I would like to say the same thing for myself. Once I finish school, or if I'm able to even finish, if I book a project that I might know will take me to other places, I don't know if I would want to finish. And obviously we never know, but I think seeing those actors and how they've handled it, I would just love to say the same things about myself in 5-10 years.
Brilliant. I mean, I think that speaks to the amount of strength you have to know that you don't need to do it all right now.
I think there's power in the people who do it all right now. Obviously, for example, Addison, Charlie, they have the money to have access to the resources that they're using.
Yep.
Some of us don't. Some of us have a slower and steadier approach, and it's just a ton of patience. And I think for them to grow that quickly, people were like, oh, what if I can achieve that success? And only some can, but the ones that do, you just kind of sit there and watch, and you hope that you can continue to grow and grow up to that level and grow even past them.
Definitely. And the people that do have those kinds of viral to sustainable career jumps is in the minutia. Like, there's so few of them that are able to do it and sustain it and then keep up the quality of what they do, because it's hard. It's a hard path to be on, to want these types of goals and to want this kind of career for yourself. Do you see yourself becoming someone who takes the slow burn approach for a long time to wait for the right project? Or do you feel like you know what you want and are working towards something specific that you could achieve in a smaller amount of time?
I would like to say that I take the slow burn approach, because I have been told, slow and steady, nothing's going to happen for you overnight. Yeah. Obviously, if you're starving for it and it shows and the passion is just coming out of you, people are going to notice that and want to see you do more. And that's just how much more networking opportunity is built. But are there times where I'm if I'm offered some TV role and, even if the show doesn't do well, but I take it and it helps me do more, there's it's the flip of a coin. It's flipping a coin. You never know where something could take you. But I think the slow burn approach is something that I would rather take. And I really want to make sure that my craft I've mastered it, and there's always room to grow. And there's so many actors who still have acting coaches in the business. They want to keep going. They want to have those emotions ready to go whenever needed. So slow burn approach is definitely what I want to do. I want to keep going that
smart way. I love it. I think regardless of where your path takes you, it's destined. You are someone that has so much natural talent that as you start refining and becoming more of the person you're meant to be, it's going to be a straight up slope for you. And I'm just so excited to see what you do.
Thank you so much.
Of course. I think that it's so cool when people are so open about these things. It's a conversation that, I literally did a TED Talk about it, about goal pursuit, and how it's not a structure that's ever been built for young women, and how it takes young, and I say young women, I don't just mean literally by age, but people young in the pursuit of what they want. It takes a whole new kind of strength to be open and to talk about it within the systems that were never built to support us. Good for you for kind of owning it and being patient with yourself and knowing that what you're working towards and you're willing to do the work to get there. 'Cause I think that those are achievements in and of themselves, to be to be able to recognize that and then go do the work to work towards it.
Oh my God, yeah. It's definitely a mindset to have. And I think with women, there are just so many obstacles always. lined up, comparison to other actresses, other models. Like, comparison is the thief of happiness. And I think the more you continue to compare yourself and try to be someone you're not, it's going to show more than any talent you have, because now people are going to see you for something that you're not. And I would rather be seen as me, even if that means that I have to take a back burner to certain things or to get extra help. I would much rather own my craft and own who I am than try to emulate somebody else.
I love that. And I feel like that's why you've done so well on TikTok, because people feel like they see you and they see what you bring to the table, and that you're trying to be Emily Uribe every single day when you show up. Even if it's Emily in a fictional scenario with a clubbing POV, or Emily in a fictional scenario, like with her own wired autocomplete board that she's ripping questions off of. I loved the video that you literally just put out of like you laughing at the fictional version of you who's having such a cool life, and you're like, oh, I hope you're having fun.
I hope she's having an awesome time making awesome friends.
Yeah.
And I think thinking of yourself in the future tense is very nice for manifestation purposes. You have to think you are doing what you're saying. Like, being it is just as important as saying it. And once you start realizing, like, if this is what I want to do, I have to believe that it already happened. And I think obviously with the manifestation technique of interviews like this, in a couple of years, I feel like when I'm there, I'll look back and be like, oh, wow, like I set this up for myself. I set this world up for myself that I could have never imagined could happen in those years of my life.
Yeah. You're so on the path to get there. It's so clear to anyone that follows you and watches your content that you're, this is what you're meant to do and that you are going to get there. So I'm thrilled that you took the time to come on the show and talk about this path and like who you are and like the power that you are bringing to the table. And I cannot wait for the day when no one can get a hold of you because your phone is ringing off the hook with offers and opportunities, because I know it's coming. I hope you have a phone plan ready for it, because I feel like it's coming soon. Where can people find you and support you, and how can people support you right now?
Interacting with my content. I always love interacting back. You can always reach me on TikTok at Emily_Uribe with 2 E's. On Instagram, same, Emily Uribe. I have a Twitter. I really love being on social media. I think that's something that's going to be you're going to see a lot less of if I continue to grow and when I choose to go on my path of what I want to do forever. But I think now I'm just having so much fun with interacting with people. And the more people that want to interact with my content, I appreciate them so much. And I always want to interact back. So you can always find me on TikTok, again, Emily_Uribe, Instagram, Emily Uribe with 2 E's. And feel free to interact with my content, negative or positive. I'm just happy you're there. Maybe I'll clap back, but thank you.
Don't be scared of the clap back, people. It's all in good fun. And I hope that there's more POVs coming from you of these fictional scenarios. Is there one that you're working on right now that we should watch out for?
I want to do another wired auto. I've done like 4 of them, but they're so fun to do. And then also I want to do Vogue, the Get Ready With Me series that they have. I think that's one of the most interesting forms of content, is these young women and men letting us into their bathroom and seeing what they really are like and seeing their setup. I love those videos. Also, GQ Essentials. I love those videos. I love to see how real these people are. I love it.
GQ Essentials kills me. The things that some people consider to be essential to them, I love it, because everybody has their things that are unique to them, but sometimes people are like, this is like a $6,000 like leather RFID like thing for my one piece of luggage. I'm like, wow, like what kind of life are you living that is your essential? Because my essential is like my one phone charger that I have that I lose every day. I can't wait. So do the essentials video. And when you do, we'll link it in the description. I can't wait to see this content from you. We are going to, in a part 2, take Emily on one of the most iconic interviews currently on the internet, with Vanity Fair's Billie Eilish style interview, where every year she comes back and reflects on her answers of the past and reflects on where she currently is and talks about the future. So Emily, are you ready to share with us where you are now, so in the future we can all come back and see how far you've come?
Yes, I am.
Amazing.
Absolutely.